Do you want to learn how to animate a spider's walk the easy way for Halloween? Boo! Is that a Halloween thing? Oh. Alright, I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. I've been asked to do a Halloween video, but I'm Australian. I don't even know what Halloween is. Halloween is some type of weird reverse Uber Eats where kids show up at your door, they put in an order for candy, and if you don't comply, they'll throw eggs at your house. I mean, what? Have you seen the price of eggs? There's a shortage, people. So I'm meant to be making you a Halloween video, but what I'm really doing is teaching you how to animate smarter and not harder. Don't tell my boss. Hi, my name is Wayne Dixon and I'm the animation and rigging instructor at CG Cookie. And today I'm going to do a Halloween video about us animating 8 legs on a spider. That's scary, right? The first thing we're going to do is grab that spider rig from the good people over at the Blender Studio. And if you're not already a member, you can donate your money or join the Blender Cloud. It's always good to give back. But I did make a few changes to the rig. I grabbed the feet and the torso controls and aligned them with the world. That's because it would be too scary to animate otherwise. Ooh. Now that's done, I'm ready to start animating. The first thing I'll do is set some markers in the timeline to make it easier for me to know where to stick my keyframes. So I'll hit M to add a marker on frame 1. I can rename that with F2. I'll call it C for contact. And then on frame 13, which is 12 frames later, I will duplicate that existing marker. Then in the midpoint at frame 7 or 6 frames later, I'm going to add another marker and rename that one to D for down. Now, why am I calling it down? Because I'm thinking about one leg doing one cycle and how it relates to a normal walk. And the down pose is going to be where the foot lifts off. Now, because we want this animation to loop again on frame 13, I'm going to end my animation one frame before that so it loops seamlessly. We can now turn on our keying set. I'm going to choose whole character selected bones only, and then I'll make sure that I enable auto keying and also this only active keying set. So I'm ready for our first keyframes, but I'm going to do this the smart way. So I'm going to drag all the legs forward at the same time, just on one side that is, to just before the front leg pops. And let's check from the front because we want to make sure that the feet are penetrating through the floor about the same amount. I'll just reposition this leg a little bit to get a bit more of a bend on the leg. I think that'll do. And now I can copy this pose and paste it to the end. Awesome. Then we want to go to the midpoint. That's what I've decided to call the down pose. And I'm going to drag all the feet backwards to just before the back leg pops. And somewhere about there is looking good. Now I can add the airborne pose, which is halfway between those last 2 markers. Oh, and I did forget to check how the penetration looks on the feet at the down pose, so I'll do that now. The back one is penetrating a little bit too much. All right, that will work for me. So let's do some manipulations on the interpolation. First of all, I'm going to work on the Y location. So I can type in Y lock into the filter here, and that's going to hide everything else. Now the Y location is the forward and the backwards, and I'm going to select all of the handles here, but then I do want to deselect the middle point here. So I can Control Shift and then lasso select around that point so that I'm lasso unselecting it. And then when I only have these handles selected, I can change the interpolation type to vector by hitting V. Now I will adjust the Z location handles, so I'm going to do a similar thing, but I'll change the filter so it's showing the Z locations. Now when the foot is on the ground, that's these ones here, that's the first part of the cycle, I want that interpolation to be vector, so they're going to move in a linear fashion. And we also don't want the feet to slow down vertically before they hit the ground, that's at the end of the cycle. So I'm going to make those handles vector as well. And I will just rotate the handles a little bit in the air pose, but I'm making sure that I'm going to pivot around the individual centers for that, so I don't shift the timing, only the angle of that handle. Alright, so that's one side done. In order to get these across to the other side, first we need to make sure that there's some channels for the animation to be pasted into. So I'm going to select the other side and then hit I, but a fast way to select the other side is with our Control Shift M, but you will need to make sure that you disable the extend option so it doesn't add to the selection, it's just going to flip the selection. But now that I've got a place that the animation can be copied to, I want to select our first side, and then down in the timeline, I'm going to copy all of those selected keyframes with Control C, making sure that they're all highlighted first. Then I can select the mirror side with Control Shift M, and then paste the mirrored keyframes into the timeline with Control Shift V. And now you should see both sides doing exactly the same thing, which is a little bit weird, but that's what we want right now. So before I offset this animation, I'm going to make sure that it's cycling correctly. So I'm going to select both sides. We can use our friend mirror select, but making sure that we have the extend option enabled. And to cycle this animation, I'm going to hit Shift E and choose make cyclic. But now we can scrub past the start and the end of our cycle, and it's going to continue cycling forever. We still need to offset one side, so I'll select everything on the right and then shift all of those keyframes back 1/2 cycle or 6 frames by hitting G6 enter. And that's already looking much closer to our goal, but let's get all of these legs offset in time correctly. The simple way to do this cycle is to have the first set of legs and the third set of legs in sync with each other, and then the second and the fourth set of legs in sync with each other, but they will be offset by another 1/2 cycle or 6 frames. So let's select our second and our fourth set and offset them by 6 frames. G6 enter. And this is how it's looking at the moment. Now, if your legs are crashing into each other or popping all over the place, over at CG Cookie, I go through in more details on how to easily fix those issues without having to put everything in the bin. Let's move on to animating the body. I'm going to start with the Z location, that is the up and the down. Now in a biped character, it's going to go up and down twice per every cycle, and I'm going to do the same here. So I will make sure that I copy the starting height to the end, and that way it's going to loop correctly. Now I should be cycling this twice, but I'm going to start out just by doing it once. And then once I'm happy with the distance that it's traveling, I can duplicate that and then double the speed. That was just something that I did in my workflow, so I didn't have to keep 2 keyframes in sync. And I offset that animation by 3 frames, so it's happening after the feet were making contact to create some overlapping action. Now let's do the side to side rotation, and that is the Y rot or Y rotation. So I'm going to set a single keyframe on that channel, and I'll also make sure that I remove the filters in the graph editor so I can see all of our channels. And I'm going to hide everything except the Y rotation with the little eyeball icon. I'm just showing you another way of isolating what you need there. Now on the down pose, I'm going to rotate it one way, that is screen right or to his left, and I'll make it a nice clean number of +3 degrees. And then I can go to the first frame and type in that negative value, so -3, and then I can hover my mouse over the input box and hit Ctrl+C to copy that value and paste it at the end. And I'll make sure there's a cyclic modifier on that with Shift-E. And now that I have the animation in there, I can play around with when it looks best. So I'm just adjusting the timing, and I've decided that 3 frames later looks good. So that's the when. Now let's have a look at the scale or the amount of rotation. Now I can scale around the Y axis in the graph editor while the animation is playing to see the changes in real time. And I've set it on a value that is about 1.5 degrees, so about half of what I started with. And this is what it looks like at the moment. Now I will add some X rotation, so I will hide everything except the X rot. Now I'm going to drag the keyframe that's on frame 4 higher, which will rotate him downwards. But then to simplify this loop, I'm going to remove the keyframe at number 10, and that way the cyclic modifier is going to loop it twice per cycle of animation. Now, like before, I can play around with when this rotation happens by dragging it backwards in time. And once again, I've decided that 3 frames later looks best. Now we can loosen up the stiffness in the body with a little trick I like to call borrowing the curve. So we're going to use the animation that we just did and paste it to a new place. So I will select that curve and copy it in the graph editor, and then I need to make sure that there's somewhere to paste it to. So I will set a single keyframe on the X rotation on the next bone down the chain, which is the neck looking part. And then I'll paste it with Ctrl+V and add a cyclic modifier. And once again, I'll play the animation and scale along the Y axis to see those changes in real time. So I scale it up to about 1.66, and then I can offset that animation by 1 frame, and that's really what loosens it all up because everything's not happening on the same frame. Now I'll do the same thing on the head. I'll add a single keyframe on the X rot, paste the animation curve, cycle it, and then offset it by 1 frame, and scale it while the animation is playing to see our changes in real time. Now I want to borrow the Y rotation curve from our body to counter animate the head. That's because I want to tone down the head rotating side to side with the body. I don't want it to stay perfectly level, but I do want to tone it down a lot so it seems more steady and in control. So I will copy that curve and paste it onto our head, and then I can tweak that animation to see how I like it best. At this stage, I've pretty much scaled it by -2, but I am going to offset it by 1 frame before deciding that I need to tone it down a little bit more. But that has added a little bit of something to the head. I'm going to move on to do a little bit of butt work now. I'm going to make it rotate and translate, just this end little section here. So I will start with the translation by borrowing the Z location from the body, and then I can paste that onto the Z location for this little butt section, making sure that I add a cycle modifier, and then I can adjust that curve while the animation is playing. And I scaled it up to about 2.5 times bigger than what it was. Then I can offset that animation by 1 frame, and I'll do a similar thing on the rotation. And I also offset that rotation by 1 frame as well. And there I just tone down the amount of that rotation just a little bit more. And for now, I'm saying that that butt is done. It's time to move on to the face. We don't need to add a lot to the eye, so I'm really just going to position the main eye control forward a little bit, and then I'll lower the eye line as well. And then I want to get rid of most of the whites above the eyes, or in this case, the yellows of the eyes. So I'll rotate the eyelid down, 35 degrees will do, and then I can copy and paste that pose with Control C in the viewport, and paste it to the opposite side with Control Shift V. And you don't need to select the other side when you do that shortcut. It's going to paste it to the unselected side. Now I think the eye line is a little too low, so I'll just drag it up a little bit, and I think that's looking a little bit better. Then I'll look at his little mustache thingy. I've decided that I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of bounce, but keep it simple and subtle. So I will borrow the Z location from the body and add a little bit of bounce to those mustache bits. There we go, and I am calling this animation done. So that was a short version on how to animate a spider the smart way. You can actually partake in this in greater detail over at the site at CG Cookie, and you can submit your work. Hope you learn a few tricks along the way as a treat. Is that a Halloween thing? I hope you find those few tricks that have taught you a treat. Hope you learn a few tricks and that was a treat for you. It certainly was for me. Whatever. I'm gonna get fired. Boo! It's